Good morning, guys. So we have some more parts for the Challenger. This time they're coming all the way from down under. So this is from a company called Aero Motorcycles. They have Facebooks. I'll put their Facebook link in the description of the video below. But they've come up with a solution to a fairly, I'm gonna say extremely common problem, but a common problem especially with higher mileage bikes, where the rear suspension pin gets a little loose. So what they've come up with is this suspension pin where it has a bolt in it and these two things that slide on here, and as you tighten the bolt, these slide in here and then take up slack. So these are machined and milled inside there. I don't know if you can see it on camera. There's little grooves in there that lock in place, and you have your alignment marks here, so you put the mark on the frame to make sure that this doesn't twist in the frame when you do periodic inspections. They give you a sticker with serialized pin. This is number 156 that this guy's made. And so if for some reason this bike ever goes to a shop, they'll know that you only undo this screw 3 times, you pull the pin out, and when you put it back in, you tighten it to 18 foot-pounds of torque on this nut here. And to take the pin out, you'll need a device with a little screw on it that'll screw into the pin, and then some circlip pliers. So come over here on the bike, and this is the pin in question. So every time you change your tire, this pin comes out. And so this pin actually goes through here, through your shock linkage into the backside of the frame. The issue is that it's a steel pin into an aluminum frame, and the aluminum frame part isn't sleeved. So there is a tolerance, there's a plus minus tolerance. Some tolerances are higher, some tolerances tolerances tighter. Obviously, the looser the tolerance, the easier it is to get this pin in and out when you're dropping the rear axle. The downside of that is if you have a higher preload on your shock, every time you hit a bump or come up off of it, this clunks and it goes through the frame. So we'll see if you can hear it. Forgive me for trying to hold the camera this way. But whenever you balance the bike, you can hear on the up travel. So as soon as you take load off the shock, the up travel, this pin moves a little bit. Right now, I have my preload set to 2, which is still good for my weight range. I'm a little over 200 pounds, so that's still good. So what this pin will do, we'll take all that slop out of there. So this is the same way on the Chieftains and all the other big bagger bikes that use this style. I think he originally designed it for the older Chieftains, but obviously it works for the Challenger too. So pop the seat off, and I'll get it up on the jack and kind of show you, moving the wheel up and down, what's moving under here. Okay, so with the bike up off the ground, stick a board or whatever you want under here. You can stick a jack if you want it up even higher. But you're gonna look right here and right in here. Let's see if I can get the camera in there so you can see it. So that's your play that you have inside there. Here, obviously. So generally, you're not gonna have the shock offloaded. But if you want to pump your preload up, you ride a little bit more aggressively. That's going to move every time you take some preload off of it. I have seen where some race teams in the Bagger League have taken, and so this is your frame backbone, goes all the way into your tank and goes up there, and then this is the other part of the frame that bolts onto your main backbone. What they have done is drilled a hole into here, thread it, and then they put a stop screw in there. So that's also another option, but obviously drilling into your frame isn't always the best solution, especially if you're under warranty. So we're not gonna do that. Instead, what we're gonna do is put an expandable pin in here. So what I'll do is I'll take this clip out, put my tool in here, lift up on this until there's no tension on this, and then this pin will just slide right out. Come in with your snap ring pliers. Almost out. It's a little easier too to get a little flathead screwdriver in there. Especially if you don't have the exact proper size that you need, and that comes right out. So the snap ring out. You're gonna take and you're gonna thread in your screw. So screws thread in a little bit. So I haven't taken weight off the tire. You can see it doesn't want to come out. So what I'm gonna do, Gonna take a little weight off the tire, and as you can see, it slides right out. Obviously this is the grease from last time I had this out when I did the lift kit. So we're gonna lower it back down. And now with that out of there, you can kind of see, yeah, you can see the needle bearings. There you go, you can kind of see the needle bearings in there. So those are your needle bearings inside your shock. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna clean some of this grease out of here, put new grease in those needle bearings, and then we'll throw the pin in. Okay, so with the bike up a little bit more, see in there, there's no wear marks, there's no abnormal wear. Once you wipe all the grease out of it, so we're good there. Like I said, you just have a different tolerance, a plus or minus tolerance, and this is on more of the plus side of it. So put some fresh grease in there, and then also for the pin, I'm going to take this screw out in this end cap, and we're going to put a little Loctite on there, and then we're going to grease up the pin and shove it on through. It gives a pretty detailed description of exactly what to do, and then this is going to go on the center panel. Okay, so we got our pin all greased. I have it just enough engagement so everything's kind of flush, and then we're going to do it with this 12 o'clock marker up. So what I'm going to do first, just kind of eyeball it. I'm going to raise the rear. Stick repositioned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the rear up, eyeball it internally until everything looks pretty flush inside here. Well, that didn't work. This is a little bit more difficult with one person. Let's try it again. This time I think I'm gonna get a board. Bear with me. So it's board on the tire. What I'm going to do actually is lower it down here until everything lines up. Make things a good bit easier. I've been a little too much. See what she looks like there. Need to come down just a hair more. I said this could also be done with a jack under your rear wheel, but I have mine buried under a bunch of crap in the garage, and I was too lazy to get it out. That looks like she might do it. There we go. There she goes. All right, now we're going to torque that to 18 foot-pounds. So in the instructions, it does say that that thing can spin as you're tightening it. So what we're going to do is once it's torqued and the C-clip is in, we are going to put a mark in there. I'll show you that in a second. So what we're going to do now, if that's being torqued, I'm going to take our C-clip, put our C-clip back in. So if the C-clip doesn't fully seat, that means that the pin isn't fully into the bike. So it's also in the instructions. Did she fully seat? Yep, she is fully seated. So now what we're going to do is, with it torqued and seated, we're going to draw a line here and 2 lines here. And during periodic checks, we can see if the pin is sitting there rotating or not, which obviously we don't want it to rotate. So I'll get everything buttoned back up, put the seat back on it, and do our little bounce test and see if she's quiet or not. All right, with everything torqued down, you also want to make sure, if you look up here, the gaps in those bushings, make sure it's somewhat centered. And what we're going to do, I'll lift on my rod down here, and hopefully this bolt right here doesn't move, which it is not. Everything's fairly tight. There's ever so slight movement between this bushing and this bushing. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of bushings in here with this whole linkage system, so it's not going to be 100% tight. But the main one right here is dead solid. That's a win. So what I'm going to do is, you can use a marker, but for my little torque stripe, I'll put a mark there, and a mark there. Unfortunately, it is downpouring, and it's supposed to downpour for the next couple days, so I can't get it out and road test it. I'm gonna stick this bad boy right here. I need to clean that a little bit more. Everything's just so cold, so I'll heat that up and try it again. I can't road test it because it's pouring down rain, but we can put the seat and everything back on and do our bounce test. So we'll get back to that. Well guys, you win some and you lose some. Bright side, fixed all the slop up here. No slop up here. Downside, the shock's blown out. Flashlight, so you can see in there. I know it's hard to see in the camera, but anyway, she's full of oil. I put the lift kit on, I think when it had maybe 500 miles or so on it. It always made a clunking sound, which I think was partly due to this. But the shock was, for the most part, pretty dry. So just for shits and giggles, I had the preload adjuster backed 100% all the way out. I'm gonna come over here, and we're gonna see if I can get the camera angle right. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm not a YouTuber. So as you can see in here, it's coming from down here in the bottom. Or if you look right here, when this moves, this guy isn't moving at all. I feel no clunking or vibration or any noise from up here. So unfortunately, it's the shock. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna go the warranty route, or I do know that there is a Big Bear Olin's option in the works for the rear, which I need anyway because we put the Big Bear forks up front. So luckily it's winter time, I'm not going to do a bunch of riding, but I still will ride it to see if this tightened up any of the suspension. But I'm pretty sure there's a blown out bushing in my rear shock. Alright, so it's a few days later. I didn't want to end the video like that, so it's going to take a little bit longer for the video to come out, but in the end it'll be worth it. So I did ride it. I put about 50 miles on it. As you can see, the pin did not rotate. This did tighten up the front a lot. You can actually definitely tell when you're riding, and the clunking is almost half what it was originally. So what I did was I went and talked to my dealership, and so I always had a clunking noise from day one when I bought this bike. I assumed it was this pin. It was intolerance, nothing you can do about it. So now that the pin's fixed is when I found out that the shock is clunking. Just went to the dealership, took the panel off, they took a video of it, bounced up and down on it with zero preload back here, and sent it to Indian. So that was at like maybe 1:30 on, I want to say it was Friday I did this. By 5 o'clock on Friday, I got a text from my service rep saying that the warranty claim was approved. So they're going to send me a whole entire new shock assembly. There is a provision in the warranty thing about rebuilding these, but I assume that they didn't want to deal with that this time. They're just going to replace whole assembly. So put a new assembly shock in there, and that'll take care of that lower clunk and this top clunk. And then when that's all in there, then we'll finish the video out. But just wanted to give a kind of do it that way versus just block it up in a couple of videos. Pin 100%. Another thing that happened actually with this pin, so Aero, so they are down in Australia. They actually ended up at the day after I put this pin in, I got another pin in the mail. Another guy from PA actually ordered a pin, and they both sent both of them to my address. Really great guys to deal with. I messaged them, told them that they sent me 2 pins. They said Merry Christmas, get to keep it. And then I found on the customs paperwork that the other guy that they meant to send it to was in PA. So they offered to reimburse me for shipping to send it over to the guy. I sent it over to the guy anyway. But the guys at Aero Motorcycles are really cool. They respond very fast on Facebook Messenger when you message their business page. But this is a great product. I'm very happy to have dealt with them. So let's get that warranty replacement shock in, and we'll go for a ride after that. Alright, fast forward about a week and a half since I took the bike in for a warranty claim. Unfortunately, we did not get to ride it because we got about 8 inches of snow and a bunch of ice, and currently outside there's 50-mile-an-hour gusting winds, so the bike is back in the garage from the dealership. What they did do is I got a nice, shiny, brand new Fox shock in there. I didn't get to ride it, but I could still sit on it. So when we sat at the dealer after they got the shock in, 0 issues and no more clunking. And as you can see, I have my adjuster down here set to 2, where it should be. Hop on the bike, do the usual bounce up and down. Absolutely 0 noise. Can't believe I had this bike for over a year and almost 6,000 miles with that. Again, read the instructions. I got this pin back in just the way it needed to be, and they sent me back the old shock just for the video. I'm going to take it back to the dealership in case anyone needs it back once they process the warranty fully. As you can see, she was leaking and it was fairly blown out. My guess is there was a shimmer or bushing in here that was installed wrong from the factory from Fox. Obviously, Indian doesn't make these shocks. These are from Fox. And just from that bushing being out, constantly slamming down on the internal side of this, pretty sure it just blew that seal out. Because when I installed the lift kit, the bike had about 500 miles on it, and this was completely bone dry, but the clunk was always there from day one. So it was a pretty simple job for them to take this in and out. My dealer is Best Line Power Sports in Muncie, and their service department's pretty great. So I dropped the bike off Friday. That was, I believe, before New Year's. Yep. So Friday before New Year's, Fast forward a week, and then today is Wednesday, and I got the bike back. So pretty awesome, quick service from them. And like I said, unfortunately, I can't ride the bike to tell the difference, but I've ridden tons of Challengers. I could definitely tell there was something off with this. So it should be a good thing to hold me over until we get the Olin shock in here, which that is to be determined. Even though I knew I was going to change the shock, I still wanted to put a fresh shock in this bike while it's still under warranty. And that way, whenever I go to sell the bike, I'll still have a good shock to put in it when I take the Olins back out of it. Because I don't want to sell a bike with a blown out shock. And by then, it'll be out of warranty. So I'll put a little edit in the description after I get to ride it. Hopefully within a week or so, all this crap will get off the road. We'll get a good rain shower, and then I'll be able to go test it out in the mountains. But that'll be the end of this video, and a little saga of my rear suspension clunk. Thanks for watching, guys.